everyone, welcome to Narayana IAS live session. Students, in this live session we are going to discuss about the tragedy that occurred recently in Delhi's old Rajinder Nagar. Now students, this tragedy did not only shake the conscience of the UPSC aspirants but of the entire country. So again, I have lived in that area for many years as an aspirant, as a faculty, and I can understand the emotions what the students are going through. And this is a very deep issue that our country is going through. And we need to understand the problems, challenges, and what can we do in future to prevent such incidents. So students, in this article, we are going to understand about the building bylaws, the violation of building bylaws that has actually resulted in the deaths of students. Then we'll understand the urban mismanagement issues, we'll understand about the disaster management and various such aspects. And you can map this particular topic under GS paper 2, right? Now, why do we discuss this topic? Because a question can be asked in the UPSC examination as it was asked in the year 2017. What was the question? The question, a building permitted for 3 floors while being extended illegally to 6 floors by a builder collapses. As a consequence, a number of innocent laborers, including women and children, died. These laborers are migrants of different places. The government immediately announced cash relief to the aggrieved families and arrested the builder. Give reasons for such incidents taking place across the country and suggest measures to prevent this occurrence. Now, this was a question asked in the year 2017 in GS paper 4, that is in the ethics paper. And that's the reason you need to know about few facts and few things about this particular topic. Now, context, we all know that 3 students, 3 official, this is the official number, that 3 students have died because of the water gushing into the basement of one of the coaching institutes. This trapped the students who were in the basement, leading to death. Now, student, this incident highlights the severe failure in the safety protocol and the regulatory compliance. This issue, it highlights broader issues such as urban mismanagement, inadequate disaster management, and the apathy of the political representatives to understand the problems of the people. This is the context. Now, let us try to understand which of the laws were violated by the so-called coaching institutes in Delhi, or one of the coaching institutes in Delhi, that led to the death of 3 students. You must have heard that the building bylaws were violated that resulted in the death of 3 students. But what exactly are building bylaws? You have read this term. Now, if you fail to understand this term, then you won't be able to address questions in the examination. This is how you understand which all points you need to know, understand, so that you can address questions in the examination. What are building bylaws? Building bylaws are nothing but they are a set of regulations and standards. There are some standards that govern what they govern. They govern the construction, use, and maintenance of the buildings, and maintenance of a building in a city or let's say municipality area. What is the objective of this law? The objective of this law is that the buildings that will be constructed are safe, they are healthy and environmentally sustainable. So, to make the building safe, healthy, there are certain standards, there are certain regulations which each builder has to abide by. And there are various aspects under this building bylaws. Let's take the example of Delhi Building Bylaws 1983. There are various aspects covered under this bylaws. The first one is the zoning. Now, the land is divided into different zones. We have residential zones, right? Then we have commercial zones, we have industrial zones. Now, in the residential zones, only residential buildings can be constructed. In the commercial zones, only commercial establishments can be constructed, industrial buildings, and mixed use wherein both residential as well as commercial establishment can also be constructed. This is the first aspect. The second is height and setback. Now this bylaw specifies the maximum building height, which means what is the permissible height a building can go up to. And this is very, very important, keeping into consideration light, air, circulation, right? All these factors are taken into consideration and permissible height is determined. Also taking into consideration the width of the road and minimum setbacks. Now, what is this minimum setbacks? It is a distance between the building and the boundary. Now, there has to be adequate spacing between the building and the property boundaries so that things such as ventilation, air, privacy for the residents, aesthetic look can be taken into consideration, and then minimum setbacks are determined. Second aspect. Third is floor area ratio. This regulates the ratio of total floor area to the plot area. So let's say if the plot area is 100 square feet, what should be the floor area? So the floor area will be less than the plot area. For example, if the plot area is 100 square feet, the floor area has to be 70 square feet. The rest of the place can be used for the plantation, right, for the residents, for the fire evacuation, like for the evacuation purpose. The fourth is the parking. It also mandates a provision for parking spaces based on the building use and size. Fifth is the fire safety. It requires installation of fire safety equipments. You need to have fire extinguishers, at the same time evacuation plan ready. Next, you have sanitation. It stipulates the number of toilets and bathrooms per unit area. The next is the structural integrity. It ensures that the buildings that are constructed can withstand the local climatic and the seismic conditions, so that in case there is an earthquake, the building has the capability to withstand the tremors. So these are some of the aspects covered under the bylaws. Now these aspects were violated, or these aspects are violated by many of the coaching institutes, leading to the deaths of students. Now let me just give you some examples of how these bylaws are violated. Construction buildings without the necessary permits and approvals. For example, basement area is not to be allowed, right? So which means classes, libraries are not allowed in the basement. They are allowed under exceptional circumstances. So this is how the institutes are violating the bylaws. Using materials or construction methods that do not meet specific standards. Overcrowding beyond their approved occupancy limits. So if the limit of let's say classroom is like 70 to 80, they stuff around 100, 150 students. Failing to install or maintain required safety equipment. Fire safety equipments are missing. Converting spaces into unauthorized uses without meeting safety criteria. For example, in one of the coaching institutes, the basement area was converted into a library, which resulted into the death of 3 students. These are some of the examples which reflects how the bylaws are violated. Then we have the fire safety regulations. Now this regulations mandate that the coaching centers must comply with the fire safety norms. Which are the fire safety norms? Which means the coaching center should have multiple exits, entries, fire detection and alarm system, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors. There has to be training and drills, so that in case fire, or in case the building catches fire, people need to be trained so that they can use these fire safety equipments to extinguish the fire. There is no training, there are no drills, and there are no evacuation plans. Fire safety regulations mandate the coaching institutes to adhere to all these norms, but none of the coaching institute does it so. Right? So most of the coaching institutes have only one entry point and exit point. Then the Delhi Fire Safety Act of 2007 mandates the commercial establishment such as the coaching institutes to adhere to specific fire safety measures like the one that we discussed about. So again, the norms also dictate that the basement should not be used for activities like classroom unless they meet stringent safety criteria. Then we have National Building Code, which outlines comprehensive safety standards for buildings. So these are some of the regulations mandated, or these are some of the regulations that exist for the safety and for the sustainability of the buildings. But unfortunately, majority of the institutes do not comply with these regulations. And who has to pay the brunt of this lack or absence of regulation or enforcement of regulations? The common man. This is so unfortunate. Now, if I talk about the urban mismanagement, now one of the aspect is overcrowding and unauthorized use. Now, the coaching industry, they have grown in volume. The unchecked growth of the coaching institutes has pushed the coaching institutes to establish their coaching centers in the residential premises. So the area is not suitable to fill in more number of people, but because of the competition and other factors, more and more institutes are establishing their coaching institutes in the residential areas. And this is a result of absence of effective regulation and enforcement. Regulation is missing, enforcement is missing. Inadequate infrastructure maintenance. Now, what led to the death of 3 students is that the nearby drain was clogged, was filled, and as a reason the water could not enter the drain. And as the water could not enter the drain, the water started gushing into the nearby areas. And in one such area, there's a basement of this institute where the water gushed in and completely filled the 12 feet basement. The students got trapped, leading to death. Infrastructure. Third is the political dysfunction. Now, as soon as this incident occurred, all the political parties started blaming each other. This is so unfortunate. Instead of taking up the responsibility for the mayhem, for the incident, for the mishap, they are passing the buck. They are blaming each other. Instead of understanding the problem of the people, now the local people have been complaining to the political representatives, the councillor, but no action was taken. No desilting work was undertaken. Had the desilting work done, then this incident wouldn't have occurred. Talking about the disaster management, lack of preparedness. Now, unfortunately, the coaching institutes are not trained, and that's the reason they do not know how to respond to the emergency situation like the flooding. Now, if you remember in the year 2019, one of these Surat coaching institutes, it caught fire leading to the death of students. Similarly, last year in Mukherjee Nagar, Delhi's Mukherjee Nagar, one of the institutes caught fire. You could see people literally climbing through the window, climbing down through the window. They're literally coming out of the window. And again, this also resulted in few accidents. Unfortunately, the regulatory mechanism, the enforcement is poor and shoddy. This is unfortunate. So we know the problems. What do we do? How do we address the situation? First and foremost, make sure all the regulations, standards, laws are implemented in letter and spirit. There has to be strict penalty in case any of the laws are violated. This is one thing that we have to adhere. Now, you being the future bureaucrats, it is your duty to ensure that the laws are implemented in letter and spirit. This incident, students, should be a motivating factor for you all. Knowing that how the laws are poorly implemented, this should motivate you to take up the civil services. This should motivate you to work hard to clear the examination, so that by being part of the administration, you can ensure that the laws are implemented in letter and spirit, thereby preventing any major incidents. This is your responsibility, students. Infrastructure improvement, again here we need to focus on the urban infrastructure. We have to upgrade the drainage system, we have to do the regular desilting work so that during the monsoons the water drains into the drainage system. Comprehensive legislation, now there has to be a robust law which should regulate the coaching industry. A coaching industry specific law has to be made which would address various issues surrounding the coaching industry. For example, the poor implementation of labor laws, the infrastructure, safety, all these things should be implemented, and that's the reason a comprehensive legislation is required. Government accountability. Unfortunately, no one has taken the responsibility for the deaths. It is very important that the administration management has to take the responsibility. The accountability mechanism has to be set. Unless accountability mechanism is set, the things are not going to improve. That's the reason accountability mechanism, setting accountability mechanism is very, very important. It is imperative. The next is public awareness and advocacy. Now, public awareness campaigns have to be run. People need to know which are the coaching institutes that are safe so that they take admissions in the coaching institutes, and this can also incentivize the coaching institutes to focus on the safety norms. So this public awareness campaign is very, 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 very important. The next is political cooperation. So we have the local government, the MCD, the state government and the national government. Instead of passing the buck, all the various level of governments, the national, the state and the local government should come together, should cooperate, should understand the issues and find a comprehensive solution rather than winning brownie points or gaining some brownie points. So this is something very, very important. And in case things are not working, though judiciary should not intervene, but in case the political representatives, the political officers, the government officers are not implementing the laws, are not taking stern action, then the judiciary has to intervene as a last resort. The judiciary has to intervene to ensure that these safety norms are enforced and all the institutes are complying with the various regulations. So this is what we can do in order to prevent major accidents. So again, this incident has highlighted is a reminder of the critical need for stringent safety regulations, effective urban management and proactive governance. It is very important for all the commercial establishments to adhere by the building bylaws, fire safety mechanism, robust safety measures, and at the last there has to be political cooperation. There has to be political support. Political willingness is very, very important. So by taking all these essential measures, we can ensure that we can prevent such future mishaps from occurring. So students, I hope you have understood each and every dimension associated with this topic, right? So students, in case you want us to continue, if you want us to continue with our live session, then please do like, share and support Narayana IAS. Thank you so much.